bad boy live. Oh, not that one. Record to. Dang it. I don't want it to record on my computer. I want it to record in the cloud. We will have to sort that out. Let's make sure we're live. Beautiful. All right. We are rolling, everybody. Guys, hope you had a fantastic weekend. Today, we're going to start the week off hot with one of the most valuable sales trainings that we have ever done inside of this free community. I'm going to be covering what is called the Belief Funnel, one of the most valuable sales trainings that Ben and myself have ever learned after spending tens of thousands of dollars on sales coaching, mentorship, books, courses, you name it. This is one of the most important things that we've ever discovered because it makes all scripts obsolete, and it creates the effect that prospects convince themselves that working with you is the best option, so that you find yourself having objectionless closes, meaning that by the time you actually pitch your services, your clients have already convinced themselves that they want to work with you. And so today we're covering the belief funnel, which is 7 different beliefs that every single prospect needs to have before they're willing to invest. And so if you are brand new to this community, say what's up, say hello. This group has grown so much over the last couple of days, and I want to first welcome you to this community. My name is Jordan Mather. I'm the CEO of Clinical Marketer. For the last 11 years of my life, I've helped physical therapists grow and scale their practices using online methods. And in the last 2.5 years or so, I've been partnered up with Ben to scale his practice to over 7 figures, combining different practice model techniques, different sales systems, different patient experience systems, and of course, digital marketing and organic marketing strategies. So inside of this group, we go live every single Monday, typically around 5 p.m. Central Time, to share with you exactly what is working to launch, scale, cash physical therapy practices. So if you're here, welcome. I'm really, really excited to have you. And if you've been here for a while, say what's up. If you guys can hear me and see me just fine, let's move the microphone a little bit closer, have a little sip of my coffee, because today is going to be ridiculous. I can't tell you how incredibly valuable this is. This training I'm about to walk through transcends any script that you can receive. This literally makes it, as long as you know these 3 things, any script or anything you say on a phone, as long as you address these 7 categories I'm about to take you through, is going to make it very easy for you to make sales and also sell premium cash physical therapy. So if you guys are here and you are a cash-based practice, say me in the comments. If you aren't a cash-based practice, that is totally fine. These principles can also be used to sell plans of care or online courses. No matter what it is you're selling, these 7 rules apply to they're deep-rooted in human psychology. So what I'm going to be teaching you a little bit here today is what's called neuro-linguistic programming, how to identify the different psychological levers in people's brains that allow them to come to their own conclusions to take action, so that the pressure is off of us to sell. All we have to do is ask intelligent and skilled questions that allow our prospects to arrive at the conclusion that working with you is the most likely chance they have to actually achieve their goals versus all of the other alternatives. Anthony, really, really good to have you on here. I'm a huge fan of you, obviously, so excited to see your name pop up here. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm gonna actually share my screen. And so in this training, whenever we have a document or a resource that I am covering, as long as you comment in the thread beneath this video, I will make sure that every single one comments. That comment is going to also get this live resource so that you don't have to worry about taking such good notes, because we are gonna move through this pretty darn fast. Facebook has released a new feature that as long as you comment on a post, I'm able to create a group chat thread through Facebook Messenger that will allow me to mass deliver whatever resource you may be asking for. So if you want to make sure that you get the training outline here today that covers everything I'm going to be talking about, make sure that you comment below. I'll be sure to get that in your hand. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let me know if you guys are able to see this training. Okay, I'm going to switch back over to the view. Neil, what's up, bud? Good to see you on here, man. Again, what I'm going to be covering here today is what is called the belief funnel. This is not a concept that I've invented. This is what the top sales coaches in the entire world are teaching. And so this is something that we've discovered, and we've implemented it in every single sales conversation that we have for the last 2 years. And it has worked extremely well for us. So again, if you guys are here, comment live, catch on replay,
comment replay. As long as you comment, you will get this resource that outlines everything that we'll be chatting about here today. So just to kind of tee things up, my partner Ben and I, together, we have closed over $2.5 million in sales. Each of us has closed over $1 million in cash collected sales just in the last year. Okay, now on top of that, Ben and I have also invested over $60,000 just into sales coaching and sales mentorship. And so that is where all of this experience comes from. This is not something that we just learned from someone else and we're just regurgitating it. This is something that, yes, although we were taught and introduced to this concept by someone else, we have vetted this heavily and implemented this within our own businesses to see massive success. So what I'm going to do here is get everyone tagged, because this is definitely training that everyone wants to, that I want everyone to get their hands on. So one of the most important things that we've discovered is this belief funnel. And the thing is about this, that if you understand these 7 beliefs that every single person must have before they're willing to make a purchase, especially if it is a premium priced service, this is one of the most powerful things that you can learn, because this literally makes any script that you may be using almost obsolete, because it doesn't matter what it is that you say, as long as you address these seven beliefs, you are going to make that sale. And obviously, it's nice to have some sort of word track or some sort of communication syntax that you have to guide people through this efficiently. As long as you do cover these 7 beliefs, you're going to be in a really good position, because your prospects aren't going to feel like you're pressuring them. They're not going to feel like you're being pushy. You're not going to have to convince them. As long as you follow these and ask the strategic questions I'm going to cover in this training, you're going to be in a really good spot. You're going to make way more sales. You're going to make way more money, because more patients are converting from evals to plans of care. More cold leads are converting into evals, and so on. And so using this, scripts are great. But honestly, this is so much more powerful, because as long as you can apply this to what you're already doing, you're going to be in a good spot. So having and covering these things allow you to do a couple things. Number one, when you follow this, you're going to have absolute clarity on where your patient is, where they're trying to go, and how exactly you can help them. It helps them dig into not just the surface level problems and the surface level desires that they want to achieve, but ultimately how those things truly impact their life, to pull up all the emotions that are attached to those things, to increase the gap between where they are and where it is they're trying to go. And the bigger that gap is, the higher the perceived value of you being able to solve it. And so the other beautiful thing about this is that you'll overcome every single objection that your prospect likely has before you ever get to the pitch. Meaning you don't actually pitch until this person is already bought into what it is you're going to do, which takes all of the sales pressure off of you. And so if you're not comfortable with sales, if you don't like doing sales, this is going to be absolutely huge for you, because instead of trying to sell, all you're doing is consulting them. All you're doing is asking pointed questions and listening and digging into those responses. And as long as you follow this framework, you're going to overcome all the objections before you get to the pitch. And then it's just as easy as just inviting them in, because they're already sold on it. They sold themselves. Okay. And so it kind of flips sales on its head, which is pretty darn cool. And so this thing, the belief funnel in and of itself are really just 7 beliefs that prospects need to have before they're able to make the investment, which also means that there's really only 7 reasons that any prospect would not actually buy from you. Okay. And so when you think about that, now you're starting to see like, okay, this is super powerful, because if there's only 7 reasons they can say no, when I address all of those things before I actually make a pitch, you're going to be in a really good spot. So our mission during any sales discussion is to build up these 7 beliefs and do so by asking meaningful questions that allow the prospect to basically overcome any obstacles they might have in their head by talking themselves through it. Okay, so when this is done appropriately, you really don't have to push or convince prospects to schedule or to convert on a plan of care or a package, because through just talking it through and thinking it through, they're going to convince themselves that working with you is the best option. And you're going to sound so much different than any sales call that they may have had before this. Okay. And so there's 7 different stages of the belief funnel. So number 1, pain, doubt, cost, desire, trust, support, and money. If a prospect does not purchase from you, it means that one of these things was not addressed. You failed to overcome whatever uncertainty they had in one of these 7 areas. Okay, so let's start with the pain belief. This is the most important one, because identifying this controls the rest of the sales conversation. So the pain belief is the prospect must believe that they have a problem that is preventing them from reaching some desired goal. Okay. And they have to believe that they need someone's help in order to fix it. Obviously, the business does not exist unless there is a problem. Okay. The role of entrepreneurs is solving problems. So this is why we always need to start off every single call with really figuring out like what exactly is their problem. And then the rest of the call is literally just asking questions, clarifying questions, and just digging down into this problem and really what that means to the patient. Okay, so we want to think about identifying this problem is finding the X on the treasure map. And once you find that X, all it is just digging down to the treasure. That is really all it is. And so another way to think about identifying the problem is the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And it's important to kind of think of it like a gap because people aren't always going to know exactly what the problem is. Yes, they understand that they're in shoulder pain, but maybe they really don't know why what they've tried in the past does not work. And so the pain point isn't the shoulder pain. Okay, we can't sell a premium product to solve shoulder pain. There's a million commodities that can solve that. The real problem that we're trying to uncover is why they haven't been able to fix the shoulder pain on their own. That's the problem that we're selling. Okay, and so when they don't really know why, that being able to ask them, understanding what they want and what's stopping them from getting there, and helping them identify all the things that they may have tried and help them understand why those things didn't work is the most important thing to understand in sales. Otherwise, they have no reason to think that what you're doing is any different than what they've tried in the past. So please keep in mind that physical pain that people are experiencing. There we go. Keep in mind the physical pain that they're experiencing is not the problem that we fix. We want to go deeper and really understand why this pain is a problem and why they haven't been able to solve that on their own. So this is why we always need to lead off the calls with, figuring out what exactly it is that they want, what's stopping them from getting it. And if we haven't identified what their problem is and why they haven't been able to solve it on their own, it's going to be really hard to present a solution that they're going to believe is actually going to work compared to their alternative options that are out there. So if we don't do this, they won't understand or see the value or need for the investment because they won't understand how you can help them and what makes you different from what they've already tried. So it's impossible, literally impossible to explain to someone how you can help if you don't understand what their problem is or understand the gap that is preventing them from being able to reach that problem on their own. Okay, there's always going to be a good amount of prospects that feel like they are savvy enough to be able to do this stuff on their own. They just need a little bit of information, but we have to identify where that gap is and how big this gap is, so we can kind of nudge them to where we need them to be to understand that, okay, if you go at this by yourself, not only are you going to risk probably spending way more time than necessary, but you're also going to risk having bigger issues down the road. And so we have to figure out how big this gap is in their own minds and how big of a gap they perceive between where they are and where they're trying to get to. So if you can't do this, they'll never see you as a trusted authority who can actually solve their problem. And so when people don't get scheduled or they show up and they have no intention of converting on a plan of care or onto a package, it's because we haven't done enough digging in any one of these 7 areas. So we have to keep this stuff in mind. And so the goal is we really need to be crystal clear in our minds of exactly what this patient's problem is and how that is impacting their day-to-day life. Okay, we basically want to be able to paint a mental picture as detailed as humanly possible. And then and only then will we know the details that patient is emotionally attached to that will equip us with the information to help that prospect make the right decision to come in and work with us. And so in order to do that, we need to know a couple different things. Okay, we need to start out with what the problem is, how the problem is impacting other areas of their life, not just being able to run, but what other areas of their life is impacting. Is their relationship with their wife getting a little distant because they used to run with each other every single day, but now there's this little disconnect because usually that's the time that they really bond, is where they talk about things. You don't know that stuff. And that would be a really powerful thing to know when trying to sell them on a 10-visit package, right? And so we want to know what they tried to solve in the past and why they think that it didn't work. And ultimately, if they could map out an ideal solution for them, what that might look like. And so once we know ultimately what, like if they can put their own solution together, what that would look like, that becomes a really, really powerful tool that we can then use later in the conversation when we're actually approaching the pitch. We can tailor it and gear it towards what they're actually looking for and against the things that they've already tried and the stuff they didn't like about working with other people. So the next belief is the doubt belief. Okay, the prospect must believe that they need help to achieve their goal, or that attempting to do so on their own or trying to use another solution is going to waste valuable resources in time and money. And so what they actually need is your signature solution versus the alternatives and versus doing it on their own. If they don't believe this, why would they ever convert, right? So our goal is to help prospects reach what we call the buying pocket. Okay, the buying pocket is where your patients and prospects believe that the transformation that they're looking for is only possible if they decide to move forward and work with you. So it's only achieved through working with you. And obviously, some people are going to feel like I could figure this out on my own. I could go somewhere else and get enough information to get this on their own. But we want to make sure that they understand that to go with those other options, although possibilities, is going to waste more time and it's going to waste more resources in the long run, depending on what it is that they're trying to do. So we want them to know that we're the fastest and most reliable option to achieve the result that they're looking for. And so how can this and understanding what the buying pocket is really help us? Okay, a number of different ways. So we know what people are buying. They are buying being able to run again. They're buying being able to spend time with their families and stay active. That's what they're buying. But it's really important to also understand why they're going to buy from you specifically. And that's why the buying pocket is so important. So let's talk about it. So the buying pocket and understanding how this works, understanding that how to convince someone that although there's other options out there, their best likelihood of success is working specifically with you. Okay. And so this also helps us understand how we need to kind of probe and steer prospects in order to get them to actually make a purchase. And so let's take a look at this diagram real quick. Every single prospect has some current state or undesired state that they're in. They've been trying to get somewhere else, some desired state. So some horrible, scary island to their dream island where all the things that they ever wanted are going to come true. And so most prospects are going to be on either side of this spectrum. Okay, so some people aren't going to believe that it's possible. Maybe they've seen dozens of physical therapists, they've seen the chiros, they've gone, they've tried massage therapy, they tried CBD tablets, nothing is working. They just think that this is something that they're going to have to live with. No one else can help me with this stuff. Then you have the other folks on the other side who feel like they just need a little bit of information in order for them to do it themselves. And so we need to ask probing questions to figure out what side of the spectrum are these people on. Okay, so if they're on the left side, okay, they don't believe that it's possible, then we know that we need to share a lot of stories. We need to share case studies. We need to share social proof, help them see that, okay, other people have been in the same situation. I've been able to help them. And so sharing stories helps people see themselves within that story. And because no one really believes that other people can do stuff that they can't, not on this level, that because of this story, they feel more inclined that they can also achieve this if that person did. On the other side, on the right-hand side of this diagram, we have the people who think that they can do it themselves. And so we have to create doubt within their mind through strategic questions, through research, through case studies, through reframing the conversation to show them, what doing it on your own has really been like. So we want to ask them questions. It's like, okay, can you tell me other times in the past where you've tried to solve this on your own? Was that successful? Oh, the problem kept coming back. And you want to dig into that and you want to help them understand. It's like doing this on their own, although has benefits, it also has a lot of cons. Like repeat, where the problem just keeps coming back and they're never really able to achieve their grand vision of whatever physical activity they actually want to do. And so we need to understand where they're at in the buying pocket so we can get them to that spot where they know that what we do is completely unique, it's tailored, and it's going to ultimately get you to where you want to be versus all these other alternatives that might cost more or might just numb might just remedy the symptoms rather than the actual problem itself. And so we want to figure out where they are as soon as possible so that we can start to figure out how can we get people to see us as the most likely solution that they need. Okay, so we have to be careful on how you label which side of the spectrum people are already on. Because if you misdiagnose or mislabel someone who already feels like they can't achieve something, we mislabel them as someone that like thinks they can do it on their own, then what we're actually going to do is make that person feel bad because they already feel like they can't do it. And if we start giving them explanations, reinforcing their idea that they can't do it, it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So we have to be crystal clear on who is a do-it-yourselfer and who's just feels like they've used all their options and they can't get the result that they're looking for. Okay, we don't want to make that mistake. The third belief is the cost belief. Now, this isn't about pricing. Okay, we want people to understand the cost of doing it on their own or doing alternative things versus the cost of working with you. So this is where the prospect believes that the cost of not working with you is where we want to get them to believe that the cost of not working with you is far greater than the cost of investing the time and money with your treatment and with your packages. So when we can overcome this, we're overcoming the time objection because this person might be extremely busy, but how much time are they going to spend using the alternatives? How much time they're going to spend trying to do this on their own? How much time they're going to spend sitting on the sidelines compared to and from the things that they love compared to the small amount of time investment it takes to just show up to our clinic once a week or virtually once a week. Okay, and so we want to make sure that we're really figuring out like what's the cost of not doing this. And so there's a couple questions that we can ask to really figure out and really make the gap between where they are and where they want to be even greater by helping them understand how far away they truly are from the result that they actually want to get. So we ask things like, what's going to happen if we don't solve this shoulder pain? What's going to happen if we don't solve this hip pain? Okay, what do you think your life's going to be like in 10 years if you never had this back pain looked at? There we go. And so by explaining this to you, again, it's making a bigger gap between where they are and where they want to be. And so if they're a do-it-yourselfer, they're starting to think like, oh man, maybe I do want to get some help with this to avoid these outcomes. Okay. And so the main goal that we're trying to get here is to make the gap big enough that we cross what's called the action threshold, where the risk or the cost of not doing business with you is far outweighed by the benefits of actually working with you. And so the current and future pain of doing nothing has to be far greater than the pain and the time and the money investment of your particular solution, whether that's a program, whether that's a package, whether that's an online course, whatever it may be. We have to ask questions to dig into, what is the actual cost of not fixing this? What's the cost of just continuing to take painkillers? What's the cost of getting surgery? And the more we dig into those things, the more of a fast and easy and brain dead, no-brainer solution working with you becomes. Okay, so we can reach this by asking around like what they've tried already, what other ideas that they have to solve this potential problem. And so when we ask them, okay, what have you already tried? And what are some other ways besides working with us that you think that you might be able to solve this thing? And so they might say painkillers, they might say chiropractic, they might say, some insurance practice, or they might say just do it yourself with some, YouTube videos. Okay, we want to discuss whatever ideas come out of their mouth so that they can truly understand what is the real cost of doing that. Sure, painkillers might be a faster solution, but how many years and how much investment is it going to take to continue to do that? And how bad does it have to get before you end up having to get surgery or some other more intrusive style of treatment, right? And so in the long run, we have to show them that working with us is the most effective option. It's going to take less time. And we want them to understand, like, what are the negative repercussions, the pros and cons of each alternative option that they're looking at to help them verbalize their own thoughts about each one of those options to talk themselves into, yeah, you're right. Working with you does sound like the most appropriate, fastest, cheapest option compared to my alternatives. So Ben, Andy, what's up, everybody? The next belief is the desire belief. Okay, the prospect has to believe that solving the problem or solving the gap between where they are and where they want to be would help them achieve their ultimate future goal. So they have to believe that what you're offering is actually going to get them there. And so there's a lot of things we got to ask in order to get them there. So we want to first understand what they want. We want to understand why it is that they want this and make it tangible by assigning a number to it. And so if they have shoulder pain and they want to get back to bench pressing, we want to turn that into something tangible, something, a goal that they can really envision themselves doing in the future. Because if they're just solving shoulder pain, how do you picture that necessarily? How do you work towards that? How do you make that tangible? And so we want to turn this into a number. So maybe we'd ask like, oh, how much did you bench before this? Okay, how much are you doing right now? How much are you trying? Like ideally in a perfect world, all shoulder pain, how much are you trying to get back to? Nice. Okay, you want to be able to bench 255. Perfect. Let's mark that down. And so now we have this tangible goal that we're trying to get to, or maybe it's running. Perfect. How often were you running before the injury happened? Oh, 5 days a week. Okay, how much are you running now? 3 days? Okay, so I think our goal here is to get you back to running 5 days a week completely pain-free. Now we have this tangible goal that the person is becoming more attached to because it's a real number. They can picture exactly what that's like, and it makes the goal and the achievement that you're promising them and selling to them more real in the prospect's mind. Number 4 is how other areas of their life are going to be impacted once they reach this goal. And so when we ask questions like this, it forces them to tell us more details about their life. It brings out the more raw emotions because all of the emotions are attached to the little things in life that most people don't talk about on these calls because most of the salespeople in healthcare, they're just not savvy enough with sales to dig into those things. Okay, and so we want to understand how this is going to impact every other area of their life. And the more things that they say, again, it increases the gap between where they are and where they want to be and increases the perceived value of the thing that you're going to be selling to them. Now, we have the support belief. Okay, this belief is that the people in their life are actually going to support them in solving their problem. The main the obstacle that we're trying to overcome here through asking questions is the most popular objection that people ask me about, which is what do I say when people say that, oh, I need to talk to my spouse? Okay, that is a really common objection, and it's because we're not asking these deeper understanding questions earlier in the sales process. And so if we follow this framework I'm about to show with you, you're not going to get those objections because we're going to deal with them before the pitch ever comes. And so they can no longer use that as an excuse to not move forward. Okay. And so that'll allow us to figure out like what's the real problem that's preventing them from moving forward. And then we can address it because we already overcame this one earlier in the conversation. Okay. So all we have to do is ask things like, do you think your spouse would be against you solving this problem with us? And so something to understand about this question that's super powerful is not right. We're not asking them, is your spouse going to be on board with buying this? Because now we're asking them to say yes to something. And people are more resistant to say yes. They're way more open and comfortable with saying no. And so this is a false positive that we're asking people to do. Would you say that your wife would be against working with us? Well, no, I can't say that she would be against it. But if you say, would she be for you working with us? They'd say like, yeah, maybe, blah, blah, blah. But if we ask them like, would she be against it? Probably not. And so this is a really powerful way to ask these sorts of questions. Okay, would you solving this problem benefit them in any particular way? Like if you're able to run again, is that going to benefit your wife in any way? Again, we're trying to figure out different things we can use to help the prospect overcome their own objections in their head about asking their spouse about it. Now, lastly, this is one of my favorite ones because they just told you no, they wouldn't be against it. And so we want to figure out like what their deepest objection is going to be. So this question does a great job of doing that. So, hypothetically speaking, if your spouse were to have a problem with you moving forward with us, what exactly would that be? And so then whatever they say, those are going to be the most important objections and things that you need to dig into before you get into your pitch for what the solution is that they need. Okay. Now we have to build trust. Once we've overcome that belief and they told us, yeah, no, they wouldn't be against working with us. And yeah, me being able to run again would give us some of our personal time back away from our kids and allows us to have just a more relaxed relationship because we're not trying to have these deeper conversations while also trying to take care of our 5 kids. Okay, now it's time to build trust. The trust that they have that what you are offering them is actually going to work. And so this is where the pitch starts to happen, where you're starting to outline your method of solving their problem, as well as what the actual product or service or package is that you're offering to them. Okay, so this is the belief that your solution is unique, different, and superior compared to what they've tried in the past or what they're currently exploring. Because many times you are not the first person they call. They might have talked to a few people and they're just kind of shopping around for their best solution. And so if they don't believe that we are unique, that we are different when all else is the same, they're always going to go with the cheaper and the more convenient option. And so it's very important that they believe that we are completely different, because again, it goes back to getting them into the buyer's pocket. We can't get them into the buyer's pocket unless they truly believe that in order to get the result that they have, they need us to get them there, or else the other solutions are just more timely, more costly, and less likely to get them the result. And so if we don't nail this part, we're never going to be able to get them into the buyer's pocket. Okay. So by getting them here and getting them to believe this, we're going to overcome I've been burned before. I've tried physical therapy before in the past, didn't really work. And so if we don't dig into this and really explain how our process is different and do it through asking understanding questions about what they've tried and what a good solution for them might look like, or why they think our solution is going to work, they're not going to have any reason to think that we're any different. And so they're going to go with the cheaper alternative, which is almost always going to be an insurance-based clinic. And so we have to help them understand and see why we're unique, because it is going to allow them to prove themselves logically why they're going to get a different result compared to what they've tried in the past. Okay. So do they actually believe that your method of solving the problem is going to bring them success? And so we need to actually, when we talk to them about what our process looks like, what our package looks like, we need to ask them, like, does this sound like it's going to get you to where you're trying to go? Why? And so whenever we're in this stage, there's really two things that we need to sell every single prospect on. Number one, our unique method, our unique process for treating patients and making sure that their problems aren't only gone, but future injuries are avoided. What is your unique process that justifies your premium rates? Get really good at explaining this, because if you can't, you're going to have a hard time selling premium packages to prospects. Okay, we have to be really good at describing our method. I'm going to show you exactly what ours is and how we do this in a minute. The next piece is, once they understand our method, we have to sell them on what the actual package or service that we're trying to sell them is, whether that's an evaluation, a plan of care, or a package. And so we can't sell them the package until we sell them on the method. Okay. And so when we're selling the method, there's a couple different things that we need to do. And so the way that we do it is the way that, once we have all the information we need, we understand, where they want to, where they are, where they want to be. We understand what's the biggest problem preventing them from getting there. We know what they've tried. We know their desires of ultimately why they're trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve and how that's going to impact the rest of their life. Now it's time to really break down, okay, here's how we're going to do that. And so here it's like, okay, I have everything I need. And so I'm very confident that we can get you to X, Y, and Z within, a certain time frame. Before I dive into our process and how I believe we can help you, do you have any questions for me? No? Perfect. Okay. So the way that we help people is, number one, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the real cause of your pain by going through a comprehensive biomechanical assessment. Then we'll explain what needs to be done to get you back to full speed and back to enjoying your favorite activities. That's phase one. Okay. Phase two is we're going to fix the problem areas by developing a treatment plan that's going to be tailored to your specific needs and goals. And this is ultimately what's going to allow us to get you stronger, pain-free, and on track to reach your goals most effectively and efficiently, and really get you back to being better than you ever were. Okay. Now, phase three will help you stay at peak performance. Once you're out of pain, we'll implement a few strategies to get you performing at an even higher level than you were prior to the injury, while also strengthening your body to be more resilient and prevent future injuries from ever happening. And so that is our 3-step process that I know we can get you from, this bad situation to exactly where you want to be, and even in a better spot than you were hoping to be. Okay, now when we're done with that, we don't just go into the pricing, we don't just go into packages and what you recommend for visits. Now we need to make sure that they understand that process and they believe that it is unique and different than what they've tried in the past. The only way to do that is by asking them questions. So the first thing we ask is, now that breaking this all down for you, does that sound like what it is you're looking for? Does that sound like it's going to get you back to benching 255? Does it feel like it's going to get you back to running 5 days a week? Okay. Now, most people, they're going to say what they are programmed to say, which is what they think you want to say. And so they're going to say yes. and never stop there. We want to dig into that. And so, well, great. I'm glad this sounds like a plan that's going to work for you. But just out of curiosity, why do you feel like this is going to work when those other things didn't? And so now they're either going to show you that they don't truly understand what makes it different, so you can dig into that and explain a little bit deeper on what makes you truly unique, or they're going to list out a laundry list of things that they've already identified from that call that they've realized this is what's super different and unique about you and why I would be crazy not to move forward. They're basically convincing you why they should work with you. This is why that's one of my favorite questions to ask. And it does a really good job of getting people to convince themselves to work with you. Because once they lay out several reasons why they should work with you, I'm going to explain a psychological principle here in just a little bit. It's really hard for them to go against what they just said. Okay, it feels out of misalignment of character to say like, yeah, I should do this for X, Y, and Z, and then say no. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Okay, now that we've sold them on the process, and they agreed that this is unique, this is different, here's why I like it and why I think this is going to work for me. Now it's time to prescribe to them what you think they're actually going to need. Okay, so now you want to tee this part up by showing them and explaining to them that you have seen this for what you think is going on, the hypothesis of what you think is going on. I've seen dozens of people just in the last few months with this problem. Okay, and we have a really high success rate with getting people back to running as much as they like to without pain and being able to manage any symptoms that they might have all on their own by the time they're done working with us. So you don't have to keep coming back unless you want to. Some people do love working with us and they do so on a performance-based basis after the program, but most people they're more than able to manage all this stuff on their own. And so because of that, I can say pretty confidently that we can get you back to running 5 days a week, pain-free, in about 10 visits, just based off of the other people that have helped achieve that same thing. But honestly, I'm not 100% sure yet. So we'll need to get you scheduled for an evaluation so we can dig into that together, just to be certain. But just so I know that we're both on the same page and you really want to achieve running 5 days a week pain-free with us, we do have an evaluation, and if we go through the evaluation together and we get you scheduled here today, and we're able to identify that the problem that I think you're having is 100% what's going on, and I'm certain that I can help you get back to running 5 days a week, is there any reason that you would be against moving forward and booking, the follow visits I recommend for you to help you achieve that? And so this, again, very powerful question, because number one, we want to make sure that, especially as a cash practice, insurance-based clinics, a little bit different, but because we're charging premium rates and people are paying for multiple visits out of their pocket, it's important that during the first sales call that we ask these types of questions to make sure that they understand, like, in order to get where you're trying to go, based off of everyone I've treated, I know you're going to need about 10 visits. Now, if you come in for this evaluation and I identify that I'm 100% sure that I can get you back to running 5 days a week, are you open, or are you against, would you for any reason be against moving forward and booking your follow-up visits that I recommend for you? And so this is going to have them, one, verbalize that, yes, they're not just interested in evaluation, they're interested in a package and working with you long-term. If they're not open to that, that might be something, a conversation you have to dig deeper into, because maybe they don't, we didn't do a good enough job expressing the cost of not working with us. Maybe you have to dig into that, or maybe they're just not a good fit for your practice and you should refer them elsewhere. But it's very important to make sure that we lay out what the expectations are, that patient is very crystal clear on what they need to actually do to work with you, because the opportunity cost of getting people on the evaluation that have no intention of converting on a plan of care is massive, because you could have spent that time finding someone else who was committed and was going to buy a package. So this is very powerful. It's either going to get this person to really buy in, or it's going to show you that this person isn't really a good fit. And it's going to get this person to say, like, no, I'm not against moving forward with whatever recommendation you have. And so they verbalized that they're pretty much bought in and committed to doing whatever it is you're going to sell them. And once someone says that out loud, again, it's hard for them to backpedal when the sale actually comes, because they already made a verbal commitment, and most people want to be people of their word. It's harder for them to back out of it when they already said that they're in. Okay, so we want each and every prospect that we have to adopt the belief that the key to a pain-free and active lifestyle for the long term is identifying the flaws in my movement mechanics and creating a tailored mobility and strength programming that is going to resolve my current problems and prevent future ones. And the only way that I can do that in the most effective manner possible in terms of my time and my money is through you. Okay, and so that is the ultimate goal that we're trying to get to. This is the buying prop pocket. If I want to achieve this within this time frame, the most likely chance I have to get it is working with this practice right here. Okay, and so this is where we're trying to get to. And so this is why when we break down the process, we ask them, does that make sense? Do you feel like this is going to be different than what you tried in the past? Oh, great. How come? Perfect. Now that I know that you enjoy a process and you believe that's going to work, here's realistically what this is going to look like to actually get you to where you're trying to be. Based off of my historic data and the hundreds of patients I've already helped with this, I know I can get you back to what you want to do within 6 visits. Now, I'm not 100% sure on exactly what the problem is. It sounds exactly like what I think it is, but I won't know until we get you in for an evaluation to be completely sure. But just so you know, if you do come in and I identify it is exactly what I think it is, and you are going to need 6 visits, would you be against moving forward with that? No? Perfect. Okay, now we can continue on and keep talking about this and move into the actual close phase when we're talking about money. Okay, and so we have to create trust within our process, and we have to overcome all of this stuff. And really, when we're going through this building the trust, this is really the intro phase to the overall pitch. Now, once they believe in the process, they know it's going to work for them. They've verbally committed that they have no problem with buying, a package and doing the number of visits that you recommend. Now we talk about the cost of the program. So the money belief is that the belief that the prospect has the resources and willingness to solve this problem. Okay, we always want to save this belief for last, because if we start talking about money and cost too early in the conversation, we might not have built the gap between where they are and where they want to be big enough and built up enough value for them to see your solution as a worthy investment to solve that problem. Okay, and so we want to save this thing for last. If you do this too early, you're going to miss out on a lot of sales that you probably otherwise would have gotten once you've taken through this entire process. Help them have all these beliefs. We've even found people that can really afford it. When you address this early in the conversation, they bounce out way too early. They go back and have all of these insurance-based objections that basically end the conversation right then and there. So we want to make sure that we save this for last, where we've already built up all this value, we've already built up all this belief, we've already had all these verbal commitments that working with you sounds like exactly what it is that they've been looking for. So save this part for last. Okay, so if you we already said that. Okay, and so when they genuinely don't have the money, which happens, and you should have partnerships within your community to refer these individuals to, just know that that's not an objection. That is a condition that they have. That's perfectly fine. We're going to come across those. If you're doing paid advertising, definitely want to make sure that we're advertising the right zip codes, all of that stuff to make sure that, if you're in one of those cities that has a very clear line between, the wealthy and the affluent and the poverty struck and lower class, it's very important that we're making sure that we're marketing appropriately and not wasting our marketing dollars. But I recommend that every single person has a good, strong referral partner to send all the people that genuinely can't afford this to, because those people will cross-refer. It's going to build a great relationship. It's really a powerful thing to have. So those are obviously going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about conditions of people, right? So if they don't have the willingness, though, then you didn't build up enough value during the cost stage. You didn't do a good enough of job of helping them realize what the cost of not working with you is going to be, what the cost of going with an in-network solution in town is going to be, what the cost of using painkillers is going to be, what the cost of not solving this and potentially needing surgery down the road is going to be. And so when we find that people okay, yeah, this all sounds good, but I think I need to think about it. Again, whenever that happens, it's a symptom of you not making a big enough of a gap between where it is and where they're trying to go. Okay, they don't understand that the cost of not working with you is more or less equal to the cost of the time and the financial investment. And so when you're getting these, just know, go back to your script, go back to your sales syntaxes, and just figure out what are better questions I can ask in here to help build that gap to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so if they don't do this, again, we have to make sure that we're digging deep into the cost belief within this framework. And so the 7 beliefs that I just covered, just to very quickly recap before I talk about how to actually, instill these beliefs in individuals and how do we actually ask, questions to make this happen. To recap, they are pain, doubt, cost, desire, support, trust, and money. If there's any reason that someone does not buy, it is one of these 7 reasons. And so during our sales conversations, if we can address each and every one of these through asking questions, not telling people, not talking at them, but asking questions, this allows them to come to their own conclusion and overcome their own objections so that you don't have to at the end of the sales call. And so when this is done appropriately, you're going to find that you're going to have objectionless sales. They've already, just by the flow of the conversation you just had with them, they sold themselves on working with you. And so that's why going through these 7 is so incredibly powerful. Okay, so how do we establish these beliefs? Okay, the answer is skilled questions. You should really barely even be talking on sales conversations. Me and Ben, we barely say anything at all. We just say oh, tell me more about that. How does that affect other areas of your life? We're literally just asking very short questions and the prospect is talking the entire time. Whenever we train new sales staff and they listen to our recordings, they can't believe how little we actually do. Great sales is about doing less. It's kind of like golf. The less you do, the more you win. And so really being able to instill these beliefs in people is just getting really good at asking questions. And for those of you that are uncomfortable with sales, you should be really excited about this because you don't have to convince anyone of anything. You just have to be good at asking very short questions and consulting them and really going at it with a core focus of understanding and from a place of servitude to genuinely collect all the information you need to be 100% sure that you can actually help them so that when you tell them that you're confident you can help them, you mean it. And we want to be so good at asking these questions that we're able to tell who's not a good fit and who is a good fit. And when they're not a good fit, being very okay with pushing them away and letting them know they're not a good fit and referring them elsewhere so that when we do ask these questions, we find the people who are a good fit, we have that much more conviction when we tell them we believe they're a good fit and so that they actually believe it when we say it. Because if you say it to everybody, people are going to feel like, I think he says this to absolutely everybody. But when Ben and I are on the phones, when we say someone's a good fit, they know it. Because when people aren't a good fit, we tell them. And so when we tell them they are, we can explain to them why they're a good fit versus the other people that we pushed away in the past. And so that's very, very powerful. We have to just ask questions. And so think of these beliefs pretty much like a checklist. And so whenever you have a sales conversation, instead of having a script up, maybe just have these 7 beliefs up and understand it's I just need to ask questions to help them overcome their own objections in each of these areas. Okay, and so use this like a checklist. And before we try to actually book them and tell them, here's what our services look like and here's the cost, we have to go through them and make sure that we check every single one of these boxes. Because if we don't, there's going to be an obstacle that you're going to have to deal with at the end of the call, and you're going to be fighting an uphill battle versus solving all of it before the pitch. Because then there's no reason, literally no reason for them to say no, because you help them overcome and do their own mental gymnastics to convince themselves to work with you. Okay, we build these beliefs by asking probing questions that lead the prospect to arrive at their own conclusion that working with you is absolutely their best option. Okay, and it's going to feel like such a good experience because they're not used to this level of communication and emotional communication in any sort of call with another practice that they've ever had. So people love when they're asked all these questions. They feel like you really care. You feel like you really understand because they actually just told you. Okay, too many people when they're on their calls, they're just like, oh yeah, shoulder pain and I can't bench. And so many people are like, oh, I know exactly what you mean. I treat so many people. Although you might know exactly what they mean, the prospect does not actually believe or know that you know exactly what they mean because they did not tell you. Because everyone believes that their problems are unique and different. And so although their problems aren't actually unique and different, because they didn't tell you exactly what they mean, they don't believe that you truly understand. And so we have to ask these questions even when we already get it. We know, talk to dozens and hundreds of people with the same problem. We have to ask these questions so the prospect believes that we truly understand what's going on because they actually told us. And because they actually told us, we can use all those things to tailor our pitch to them, which makes it even more irresistible because it's the first tailored solution any practice owner that they've called in the last 2 weeks has actually given them. Okay, so why does this stuff work? What's the psychology behind this that makes this stuff work? Okay, it's called the consistency bias. And so the actual definition of this is it refers to people's tendency to judge their own interpersonal behavior in a given situation in accordance with the general self-image that they have, even if their actual behavior in the situation is partialed out. And so translated, what this really means is that what the consistency bias means is that people want to be consistent. They want to be consistent in the way they live. They want to make consistent actions with the way people perceive and expect them to act. And if they say they're going to do something, they want to do something. Everyone is by nature pretty honest. Even if they're not really honest, people think of themselves as honest. And when they say they're going to do something, they want to do it because no one wants to feel like not a person of their word. And so when we're asking people these questions, when they're telling us what's going on and we share our solution and what we think should work, we ask them, do you think this is going to work? Oh, why? Okay, here's what I know you're going to need to get here. Do you have any reason that you'd be against doing that? Oh, no, you don't? Perfect. They basically told you that this is going to work. Here's why it's going to work. And I have no problem doing the thing that you tell me I need to do to get there. Because I've already said those things, because of consistency bias, it's harder for them to not schedule with you, or it's harder for them to not move forward with the package because they've already did the internal, logistics to decide that this is going to work. And so that is why asking these questions and asking understanding questions and digging into those to truly understand what's going on, to truly ask them, do you think this is going to work? And all those, understanding questions to get them to agree to what you're saying is true. It's really hard for them to not get scheduled or to purchase after they've already done that. And so what makes asking these skilled questions so powerful is they're not only telling you that they're, they're not only telling you that they believe all of the 7 beliefs that we just covered here above, but they're telling themselves that. They're not just telling you that they trust you. They're not just telling you that they have a strong desire that they truly want to do and they're willing to put in the work. They're not only telling you that, yes, they have the financial resources to actually do this and that this problem is creating massive issue within their life. They're telling themselves this. And because they're telling themselves this, they're overcoming all of their own objections. And that is the magic of all of this, that they're telling themselves and overcoming all of the stuff themselves so that you don't have to. Okay. So this is important because literally the best salespeople in the world, whether they're selling coaching, e-com, physical therapy, or plastic surgery, whatever it is, the best people in the world are able to make sales that don't have objections. People just enroll because they covered all those objections on the call. So if you ask targeted questions to help people arrive at all of these beliefs I just mentioned, it feels entirely incongruent with their own character to not move forward with working with you because of consistency bias, they just said that this is going to work and that they should do it. Otherwise, these things are going to happen. And so to go against that feels really unnatural. It doesn't align with all the things that they just said. And so it's hard for them to not move forward. And so that is how we create the objectionless close. The best people in the world are doing this. I get very few objections on my sales calls. Ben gets very few objections on his sales calls. In ProKinetics, because we train our sales staff so extensively on this, we have a 75% booking rate from cold call and lead to an evaluation. From evaluations, we have a 90% conversion onto cash packages that are worth over $2,000. Our average patient comes in for 9.1 visits. Our average lifetime value per patient is $2,001. $2,001. And we do that because we understand these 7 beliefs and we build these beliefs into our systems to help make sure that people are constantly validating themselves and they're constantly revalidated for making the right decisions within their treatment. So we do this on the sales calls, we do this during the evaluation, and doing so makes our conversion rates insane because people don't have objections. They talk themselves out of them. It's a really, really powerful thing. So it's crucial to understand that the best physical therapy salespeople aren't focused on mastering objections. So many people ask me, how do I overcome this objection? You don't. You talk about it earlier in the conversation and get that patient to talk themselves out of that objection. You ask probing questions, understanding questions, ask them what they think, of these other alternatives that you're exploring. Why do you think those will work? What's the worst part about doing that if you did decide to do that? Like, why haven't you already pulled the trigger on that? Okay, digging into all of those things. Okay, although the best salespeople, yes, I'm good at overcoming objections. Ben's great at overcoming objections. Our admins are great at overcoming objections. Although we are good at that, our core focus is on asking skilled questions that instill belief within the prospects through their own answering. So that that all of our closes are objectionless closes, or that whatever logistics we have to figure out is just figuring out like what payment plan is going to work best for them. Everything else is sold. The only thing I got to figure out is like, how can I afford this? Because although money's tight, I really want to do this. And so because we focus on this, those are the only issues that we run into. So the reason that this is because, we're covering all of these before the actual close. We dig into all these issues before we tell them what the solution is and how much it costs, so that we've already dealt with all of those. So only reason someone does not buy unless they truly do not have the resources is because you failed to dig into one of these 7 categories. Okay. If you have any questions, please let me know. But if you guys got value out of this, make sure to smash the like and the love button. Let us know, because your feedback means everything to us, helps us make better content, and really just invigorates us and helps us be excited about creating this content. And so if you got value out of this, comment value below. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. For anyone that would want this guide that I just walked us through, just make sure that you comment below. Every single person that comments, I will make sure to send this over to you, because now Facebook has a tool where I'm able to create group chats based off of who commented on our material. So if you want this, just comment on this below, and then I'll create a group chat for everyone who commented, and I'll drop this resource in here, in there after the training, probably first thing tomorrow morning. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed this training. Hope you did too. Have a great night.